I'm going to go in and visit Linda and David, and they're going to take us on a tour and a little bit of information on what's involved in making pottery. And we're going to learn the difference between pottery and ceramics, and we're going to learn quite an interesting thing this afternoon. We're going to learn how you make some of your dishes that you use, and I think we're going to run into a very fine experience, and hopefully everybody will stay tuned and watch the show with us tonight. Just come into your business this afternoon and interfering with some of your work.
That's quite all right. We're happy to have you here, and we want to show you, myself and David want to show you around our pottery and sort of give you guys an idea of just what we're all about here.
We've experienced some of the fine stuff that you've already completed, and you've been telling us that you're going to show us how to make a mug this afternoon. How was that?
Yep, that's correct. And I guess the best way to do is just go through the process rather than just stand here and explain it.
Can we get started?
We sure can. Let's go. Starts from a lump of clay right to the potter's wheel, and then we'll go over to where David is decorating, and that'll sort of give you an idea of the process that we have to go through. So if you just want to follow me through the studio here, I can show you the clay mixer. So you might want to just zoom in here and take a look at what's in the inside, but basically what we do is just throw our clay in here and mix it with water, and this is basically the first of the raw material that we use for the process. Right now you're just seeing a bunch of dried stuff, but all this can be recycled, and it's just a matter of slaking it down with some water and turning it on. It just rotates. It works the same concept as your hand mixer, that if you're making a cake or something like that.
Questions. What's the difference in the clay that you use and what we call mud here around our streets?
Well, what you'd call mud is typically more organic material. It's like leaves and trees and stuff like that. When it breaks down, it'll mix up with the soil, and you can use it either for farming, or if it's more rock components, then it's more muddy. But with clay, it's a particular type of ground-up rock. Basically, you'd have the mountains, then over the years they break down and it goes through the streams out towards the ocean. And the finer sediment goes the furthest, and this is what the clay is, the really fine rock dust that's been deposited further away from where it was originally eroded, and we can use that when we bake it in our kilns to make it again into rock, so you could use it for dinner plates or what have you.
So this comes from rivers and streams around Newfoundland?
Yeah, actually there's a lot of clay in Newfoundland, but it depends on what you need to use it for. The clay that we use here predominantly is clay that we bring in from the mainland, but that in turn is really mixed up from clay that's from all around the world. You get some from England, some from Canada, some from the States, and they mix that all up and send it to us, and that's a very high temperature clay because you need something really strong if you're going to use it for everyday wear. The local clay that we get around here is really, really terrific stuff. It's a nice, beautiful chocolatey brown color, but it's a very low temperature clay. So when we bake it in our ovens, it turns to a liquid. So it's terrific for the outside color of the pots, but you couldn't really use it for the structure of the pots. It's not that kind of clay.
So we will see some pieces as we tour your building here today made of Newfoundland clay?
Yeah, there's some really nice pieces. The moose setting that we're doing for the Cabot here. Yeah, can't wait to show you.
Okay. All right, Jen. Tell us what this is.
It's called a pug mill, and we use it to actually mix up our clay again and also de-air it. It takes all the air bubbles out of it, and it prepares the clay for the next step, which is the actual making of a form of a pot. So basically, once the clay comes out of the mixer that we were just looking at, it goes into this opening here, and once we push down with this, and it comes out through here, and then we just cut them into logs, okay? And then once they come out of there, we store them into our these are old recycled deep freezers that we've gotten, but they're not actually used as a deep freeze for cold storage or anything like that. It's just a means of a storage bin. And if you want to come closer, I can show you once it comes out of the pug mill clay. As you can see. So this bin right now is getting a bit low, so we'll have to make our clay again soon. And so I'm actually going to take a piece of this now, because the next process is actually the making of a piece on the potter's wheel. So I'll just take some of this clay from the bin. And what I tend to do at this point, when I'm throwing or making the forms on the potter's wheel, I just don't make one piece. Like for the mugs, I've just made 100 at a time because it's not really feasible enough to do one piece. But in order to do that and get them at consistent sizes and whatnot, I weigh out my clay on just a little weight scale here, and basically I just cut it through like this and weigh it out. And so roughly I know that I want each mug to be 300 to 400 350 to 400 grams of clay. So what I do is tend to just cut each piece out like that. And I've done this so often that I can pretty well judge how much I do need, and I don't necessarily have to weigh it out every time. And then I just make the clay into balls like this. And basically, this will eventually become a mug, okay? And what we're going to do is go through the process with you right now. And we can start on the pot. Okay, here we are at the potter's wheel. This operates just like a gas pedal of a car. I have a foot control down here, and the more I push on it, the faster you go, okay? The first thing you have to do is get the clay centered. And you can see how wobbly my fingers are here right now. I have to get rid of that wobble and make sure the clay is dead center of the wheel. The first thing I have to do actually is take off my Band-Aid. Wet my hands. So what I'm doing is just putting pressure on my arms here and pushing down on the clay. And of all the process of throwing, centering the clay is probably the most difficult, and it can take months and months to actually learn how to center the clay. So that's pretty well, you can see the wobble's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, my fingers are pretty well leveled there now. The next step would be to actually make a hole in the middle of the clay, and again, different potters have different techniques and ways of doing things. I tend to push down with my fingers almost to the bottom, and again, that comes with practice. I know pretty well that I'm almost at the bottom, but not quite. Otherwise, when you're learning, you tend to make a lot of bottomless pots. Then the next step would be actually to form the bottom. So I just take my thumb, and what I'm doing is just going to pull my thumb out like this, and I'm actually forming the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, but... And then the final stage would be to actually make the walls. And what I'm doing here is just with my fingers on the inside and outside, I'm pushing the clay, and it's going to gradually go up straight. You see what's happening there? I'm just going to get my sponge. I try not to get too much water in the bottoms of the pots, because sometimes that will cause cracking later in the drying stage. So again, I'm just squeezing the clay between my fingers, and you can see it's getting taller and taller. Okay? And that's pretty well it for that stage. Now this is the fun part. And this is what takes, it's the quickest time, but there's so many other different steps, as you will see. You had a question?
What other types of things do you make here besides mugs and tea sets things?
Mostly it's everyday functional wear, dinnerware stuff. You know, we do plates, we do bowls are a big thing. And, you know, we can go through the stuff on our shelves later. But candle holders and candy dishes and tumblers and stuff like that, yeah. But mostly everyday use ware. And we are production potters. We make pots so that people can use them rather than just put them on the shelf. Though we do decorate them, and you can see, you know, we use Newfoundland themes. We try to you know, we look out the window for our inspiration, basically, and that's one of the big drawing cards of being where we are.
Now, you talk about inspiration, but where did your inspiration come from to start such a thing as pottery, which is not well known here in around Kings Point?
No, in Newfoundland in general, it's not really well known. I first got working with clay when I, after graduation from high school, I did a visual arts program in Stephenville, and that was my first introduction with clay. And from there, I went on to Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, where I got a degree with a crafts major, and basically pretty well did mostly clay work there, a lot of fiber work as well. And it was after that, for 4 years I actually worked with the provincial government in craft development, but before, it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a craft production, you know, person, and with a business. And so I did some traveling, and I actually worked with a production pottery in Scotland for a while, and before moving back home. That was in '91, so I opened the business in '92, and David joined me in '93, and we've been at it ever since.
Well, I guess that's where Kings Point pottery grew and come from, is it?
That's pretty well it. Yep. In '92, yeah. Took a while to come up with a name, believe it or not. It sounds like such an easy name, Kings Point Pottery, but I had gone through quite a number of names, and it always kept coming back because it is a nice name, and we find that we're putting Kings Point on the map, I think, in that with our highway signs, and we attend craft fairs as well, and we get an incredible number of people wondering, where's Kings Point? We never heard of that place before. And we get a lot of people coming down here specifically for the pottery and, loving the area and coming back and also looking for other things to do in this area. I think there's great potential here.
So since you opened now, you say in 92, have you had lots of visitors from other parts of the world besides Canada?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we get them from all over. A lot of Americans and Western Europe in particular, yeah.
So is this from advertising now, Linda, or just people driving by and seeing it on the street?
A bit of both, I guess, but mostly I think our highway signs. We also do advertise in the provincial government travel guide. Our pottery is listed there. But our signs are doing justice for us, I must say, yeah.
Now you talk about these signs. These are the signs that people see up on the Trans-Canada.
Yes, that's correct, yep.
4x8 sheets or something up there.
Yep, the ones we had to go through a lot of work to get.
And they are quite noticeable. I know I've driving the highway. There's something that do catch your eye.
Yeah. Well, we took a lot of time for us to come up with those designs, and we wanted something that was catching, and we feel that those colors are really vibrant, together, and they do work for us.
So not only is it hard work to put the pieces together, there's a lot of work putting the business together and the signs for the promoting.
Oh, for sure. And that's only the tip of the iceberg, really. I mean, we haven't gone into all the business side of it with the book work and everything else that we do everything. And there's always something to do.
No, we've been standing there. How long would this piece stand without falling down?
It would stand forever. It will dry up on me. So at this stage here, I was just going to mention that this little gadget here is actually it's something that Dad made for me. One of many things that Dad made for me. It's a measuring device, and you'll notice later when we go to David in regards to all the mugs seem to be fairly consistent in size, diameter, and height. And this is because I set up this measuring gauge so that the next time I throw a piece, what I'll do is just take this mug off, and I'll show you how I do that. Just with a wire, and I pull water underneath the pot like this, and it just comes off like that. So I would just put this on a shelf and let it sit for about a day, and then it has to be flipped upside down. But in the meantime, this measuring gauge has been set up for the next one, so that I can have it pretty well the same height and diameter. Because when I throw it, once it starts hitting this, I know I've gotten the size that I want. So at this stage now, like I was saying, it will have to sit for about a day, and a lot of it depends on the weather. On a day like this today, when we get the sun shining in, you have to be very careful. Whereas on a damp, wet day, it takes much longer, obviously. But the next thing I do, after a day or so, I flip it upside down and I do what's called trimming. And that's on this wheel here. And you can see all these trimming pieces here. This can be all recycled, put back into the clay mixer that we seen earlier, and mixed with water, and I can basically use it again to make pots, right?
Now, Linda, a mug that like we're starting there, how long would it take you to make a mug?
Well, that's a very good question, and it's a question that a lot of people ask, in that there's so many different steps. Like if you want to count from the mixing to the clay to the firing stage, it's probably like 45 minutes to an hour if you wanted to add up every little step. And David and I have gone through the steps, and we're talking approximately 50 steps that this one piece. Like the actual making of the form, as you could tell, it was only a couple of minutes, but that's only, a very, very small portion of the whole time. So that's pretty well, the answer for that, because after this stage now, as I say, with the trimming, I can demonstrate to you the trimming stage, though it's already trimmed, but I can show you what I actually do with that, and I'll sort of give you an idea. Here now, so as you can see, my lump of clay is much bigger. And basically I'm just going to go through the same process. You can see my fingers are really wobbly and I have to get rid of that. And you may get a bit of clay flicking, so you should be careful.
Now, this process that you're going through here, again, can you tell us what it's called?
This is called throwing. Okay, it's a pottery term. But it's the actual making of the form or the shape for the final piece. But it's like the very first step, really, in the actual making of
So for anybody out there that keeps hearing her say she's throwing this and throwing that, she's not really throwing things around. She's just making things form.
Yeah, and we also have a technical term that we say we're throwing up. So
Yeah.
for what that's worth.
It's quite an interesting thing, though. You take a sort of a round shape and turn it into what you like.
Definitely, yeah. As you can see, it's taken me a bit longer to actually center this because there is more clay, but basically I've already done so and the wobble is gone. And again, the next step is making the hole in the middle, and I'm just exerting pressure down to the bottom, making the bottom. I have to keep applying water because it gets a bit sticky, otherwise your fingers just stick to it. And again, I'm making a bowl form here. I'm just pulling up the walls.
Now, around here, a lot of people is used to ceramics. Linda, what's the difference in ceramics and the pottery?
Well, this is basically the difference in that in pottery, all the forms are handmade on the potter's wheel, like this. As opposed to with ceramics, they're made from molds that you would purchase from your supplier. And with us, they're all original designs. So we come up with the shapes that we want to produce and the designs that we want to put on them. But with ceramics, it goes through a similar process. Once the forms are made, in that they have to be dried out and then they go through the kiln firings and stuff like that and have to be glazed.
Does it pottery like this be stronger in a sense than ceramics, or is it about alike?
It depends on the kind of clay that you're using. With this, the clay that we use is it's what we call a high fire stoneware clay, and most ceramics is what they call an earthenware, which is fired at a much lower temperature, i.e. this is much stronger. So that's pretty well a bowl form, which sort of gives a different shape than the mug. Okay, and at this stage, this clay is very soft. If I were to hit it like that, I would really, throw the shape off, but it could be fixed. But I mean, there's lots of things that you could do, with something like this. You could push in the sides and make kind of, different decorations and stuff like that. It's sort of sky's the limit what you can do.
So you
just let your imagination.
You're not necessarily need always a round shape. You can have
you can alter it, right? Exactly. Yep.
Looks like an interesting craft you got here.
We love it. Yeah. You gotta love it.
I'm going to say loving it must be a major part of the enjoyment in something like this, is it, Linda?
Very much so. Yes. I mean, it's for me, the craft comes before the business. The business is a way of being able to do my craft full time. That's sort of how it's come about.
So I guess you go to bed night time and all these ideas run through your head and you hope to get up in the morning and get started?
Yeah, for sure. And we work long hours. We're here like morning, noon, and night, 25 hours a day, 8 days a week is what we say.
Now, with this being Come Home Year and John Cabin and all the celebrations that's going on, how is that going to be beneficial to you guys?
Oh, we're really looking forward to that. Yeah, we're anticipating a great year, and we have plans, especially for the Come Home Year, in that we're doing a special ornament for Rattling Brook and for Kings Point, the Come Home Year, as well as the one for with the logo. And we're hoping to do something for Springdale up as well.
So will we be lucky enough to get the sight of any of those things today, or will we have to wait till the actual Come Home Year to see them?
You may have to wait because they're still in the preliminary stages, yeah. But we have also done a couple of things for Cabot Year, of which we can show you a couple of things that we've done for that, a brooch and a plaque. Yep.
Now, Linda, well, we got a few minutes. What do you got planned for the year? I know this being a busy year for you. What type of shows and things have you got to promote your business during Cabot 500 year?
Well, the big thing is a gallery show that we have planned, that we've been working on all winter, and we'll get a glimpse of that later. But that's a show that is going to be in St. John's. That's run through the Devon House Craft Gallery, and that opens on July 20th till September 5th. And it's a show that David and I have been planning for 2 years now, and we've gone through lots and lots of work in order to get it where it is today. So we can talk more about that later, perhaps, in the finished pieces, once you get a visual look at it.
Now, what's next on the agenda, Linda? I know you're quite eager to get from one place to the other.
I can show you how I attach handles to the mugs, right?
Well, Linda,
They are actually handles that I use to put on the mugs. And they've been extruded from our pug mill, the machine that you were looking at earlier that actually de-airs the clay that comes out in the logs. And this is our template. It's just the shape that, again, Dad's helped us with to actually put on the end of that pug mill. And you can see that particular shape is what comes out here for the handles. Okay? So we just attach that to the end and turn it on, and these come out like long worms, and I just lay them down on the boards like that. Now from there, what I tend to do is just cut them up. And each handle has got to be 5.5 inches long. Okay? So that's something I've learned over time. And basically, I just form the shape. And these are mugs that I've thrown 3 or 4 days ago, and they've already dried. This is what's called the leather hard stage, and it actually feels like leather. It's still got moisture in it, and it can still be moved around. Not too hard, not too soft. My pin tool.
Now, Linda, we keep hearing Dad's name mentioned, so Dad seems to be a pretty important part of this business. I don't notice that he's around here very much, but he seems to be everything you mentioned. Dad this, Dad that.
I guess he's camera shy today.
He's camera shy, is he? Yeah. But he is an important part of your business?
Very much so. As you can tell, this was his garage that we've renovated into our space. So basically, we've taken his space. We've given him a smaller one, but he was, very helpful in just being generous in letting us take that over. And but basically, he's my left hand, and in lots of cases my right one too. In anything that we need done, like he's Mr. Fix-It, and just all the shelving units that you see around, anything that that requires any kind of fixing up. It's kind of like having your own mechanic on hand, your own handyman. It's one of those kind of people. Yeah,
So I guess we're going to get to see a lot of Dad's handiwork today.
I think so. Yeah. Yep. You sure will. Yeah.
Now.
Okay, so what I've done here is, again, this is another technical term, but it's called scoring the clay. It's called slip and score, and what I have in here is, this is kind of like, it's like thick cream, but it's called slip, and it's clay with a lot of water in it. It's like in its liquid form, and what I'm doing, I'm sticking it on here, and it acts as a glue, okay, for the handle that I basically attach. So you want to see what I'm doing here. And that's basically, how the handles go on, and then I just take my sponge and just clean up some of the extra slip that's around there. And that's how the handles go on. So I can give it a bit of shape. I can push it around a bit because the clay is still soft at this point. But that's pretty well the shape that I want. And then I'll just turn them upside down and let them sit for half a day or whatever. And at this stage, they're ready to be decorated. And from there, we can go over to David, and he'll sort of give you the rundown on that.
Okay. Is anything to this?
Yeah, we here at the Pottery, everyone asks us, where we get our ideas, and as Linda mentioned before, everything's just right outside our window with the eagles out the bay and the whales and the dolphins out there. So we design all our own designs. And what we do for most of our processes are really a simple technique. What we do is we take paper and we just cut out designs that we want. This one's supposed to be a humpback whale, and then here's another example here. And this one will end up to be a bull moose. But it takes a lot of time. You look around, you sketch the wildlife and that kind of thing, and develop the designs that you want. This is basically our white clay, and as Linda mentioned before, there's probably about 50 steps. And it's about 4 to 6 weeks from the point that you start a piece to the point that it's finished. And what we've done here is we've let it dry for about 4 days after Linda's trimmed it up and put on the handle. And what I've done in addition is we just take regular sealing wax and we just dip it in, and this will give us a white rim on the top of our pot, because what it does is it covers up or resists the colorant that we have in this bucket. Now the bucket looks just like gray clay like everything else,
Right.
but that's the fun part about clay is you don't see the actual color usually until it's been baked, and then after it's been baked, then it comes out. So it's every time you open up our ovens, you get a new surprise, and hopefully it's a good surprise, not a bad one, but we have our fair share of each. So, again, just like the wax, we're using a resist technique again here. What I do is I take our paper cutout, and I just stick it on with a little bit of water that I have in this tray here, and I just rub the cutout onto the piece, and I have to burnish it down. Now, I've burnished half of this, but I have to burnish the back half. And basically what I'm doing is I'm going to dip it into a blue slip, which is, again, just liquid clay with some blue colorant in it. And it looks gray, but it will turn out blue. You'll have to trust me on that one. So I'll just finish burnishing it down. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that the blue slip doesn't slide in behind the cutout, because you want a nice crisp image. And what will happen in the end is where the paper is, the clay will stay white, and where the slip goes on, everything else will be blue. So I've got a white rim there, I'll have a white whale here, and then hopefully I'll have a white line here where I stop dipping the slip. Now this is an oriental technique that we learned in one of our ceramics books, and we've got the slip mixed up to just the right consistency. We've got a little thing we call a hydrometer, and it tells you how much water's in the slip.
Right.
And we just dip it down into it, and it catches an air bubble on the inside of the pot so that it stays white. And we dip it down, and you see I've just left a white rim there on the bottom. And then we're going to shake it off to get rid of the excess slip. And then I just slide it on to this piece over here. And then we just shake that off. And this is and then comes the fun part. Now this has got to dry for a week or so. But we've always got to fool around with all these things and hope that we don't trip. Part of the building of course is at the very top, so we jump up on the tables and then pick them up and push them up there. So far we haven't had any catastrophes yet, but you always have to be careful when you're playing around with clay. Now here's an example of the clay after it's been baked. Okay.
Here you go.
Sorry, here's an example of the clay after it's been baked. You remember I had wax along this top rim here.
Right.
I had the cutout in this portion here, and then I dipped down to just leave a 1/4 inch at the bottom. And so after it dried, we peeled off the cutout, and then we carved in the details of the whale. And then after it's baked, once it comes out just like this.
Now I'm looking up on these drying racks that you call them, and I see some fine shapes and forms up here. There's a bowl there. It looks like whale, maybe whales
That's
pictured
right.
in.
That's right. Yeah, that's what that's supposed to be. It's not finished yet, but it's something we're working on. A lot of people comment on that one because we've had it here for about a year trying to finish things off. We have a lot of ideas and never enough time to do them all. That will one day be a fruit bowl. We do have in the shop, though, a variation on that we can show you that is completed.
Looks like some fine work there.
Thank you.
Do you want to try this?
Looking at these pieces you got here for looks like Cabot 500 samples, just give us a little bit of information on it.
Yes, that's right. We're making two Cabot products this year, and we made one last year. So these are brand new. In fact, this is the first time anybody's going to see them. This is what they're in the first stage after they've been baked once. And then again, we're trying to use a lot of the local clay. So again, the brown color in here is the local clay that we've used. And you can see it says Matthew on the top and Newfoundland on the bottom, and then the year, and then of course there was a ship in the middle. And in addition, here's another one that no one will have seen yet, because it hasn't even been baked once. All we did is air-dried clay here, and it's hard to see, I know, but it's Newfoundland on the top, the years, and there's the ship, and you can see Newfoundland here, and then there's England over there. Now, you might ask why we picked these two. Well, we heard that for Cabot year, they weren't going to produce a coin, and they weren't going to produce a stamp, so we thought we would do it here at the Pottery, even though the government wasn't going to. So those are our two new products. We have one product that we made last year, which we call our ornament, and again, it shows the ship. And unfortunately, we don't have the prototypes finished yet for Kings Point and Rattling Brook, but we're really excited to put those out this year during our come home year.
Now, last year question, well, Amir, how would you price a product like this with all the time goes into it and the, I guess the sentimental value of being a come home year and a Cabot 500 celebration. How would you put a price tag on it?
Oh yeah, pricing is usually dependent on the size. Typically, you'll find that the larger pieces are more expensive and the smaller pieces are less. And the reason for that is it's really a technical one, and that is any time that you increase size, you get what they call, and again I'm reading from a book almost, it's an exponential increase in the difficulties in getting it to the final stage. In other words, this piece is highly unlikely to crack, warp, or any number of things, whereas as soon as I get to something this size, I'm going to have a problem. Is it going to stay nice and flat? Will it twist? And it just goes on and on. For something really large, like our large whale bowls, which I've got right here, I mean, these pieces, we try to keep the bases small because that's where you get most of your problems. But once you get to something this size, I mean, you get a lot of loss. Sometimes when we're making these in the kiln, we'll get, it's been as bad as getting only 30% from finished product out. So it really varies, and that's why people sometimes go, boy, that's a bit expensive. And we say, yeah, it is, because it's just so much work and we lose so much along the way. If you only get 3 out of every 10, well, that's obviously going to influence the price.
Well, I guess when you look at price, it's well worth the price, though, for all the work that goes into it, and it is all local Newfoundland made, and that tells us it's a much better product than buying it from Japan somewhere.
Oh yeah, well, we like to think so. It's supporting local business, and as Linda mentioned before, I mean, potters, they don't make pots to make money. They make money so they can make pots. So it's a great way to make a living if you enjoy what you do, because you've got to do it sort of 8 days a week, as Linda said before. But I think if you wanted just to make money, you might pick a different job for a living.
Now, we hear this advertising that they got going on, and we believe in Newfoundland. I'd like to say that here at CC3, we believe in Newfoundland Labrador, and we try and produce as many of these little shows showing what exactly this type of thing. So hopefully this will help you guys out in the future.
Oh, definitely, and we really appreciate you coming by. It's a terrific opportunity to, let people explore our studio that, haven't had the chance to come down, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us.